Hey, good morning. Granny gear for old guy on a bike. Today, well, it's a video that's kind of long overdue. And that is an update on the Hunt Gravel Race alloy gravel wheels that I've been using for quite a few months now. And kind of working through my feelings and thoughts about them. And today on this video, well, we're going to wrap that all up. Let's get to it, shall we? Be right back. Roll intro. Now, I did a previous video where I introduced these wheels, and you can refer to that. I'll put a link in the description to that. But basically, when I first saw these wheels, I thought, well, they're not real expensive, are they? They're under $1,000. They're $800 at the time of this video. And they were, of course, like I said, not carbon. So they were aluminum alloy. It's a shallow rim. 17 millimeters deep, that's pretty shallow, and 24 internal. That's okay, that's not bad. 25 is kind of there, right? So 24 is pretty close. So that's all good. But what struck me about them is how light they were. They were advertised as 1,400 grams. I weighed them as less than that. Well, wow. So I thought, let's check these out, shall we? I got in contact with Hunt. They sent me a pair at no charge. I've been riding them ever since. I'm going to find a little spot up here, tell you how it's been, what I was looking to accomplish with these, and today, what I'm going to do to kind of, well, wrap up my thoughts and see how they compare to a set of carbon wheels that I'd used previous to this, okay? Let's find a little spot, shall we? All right then. So here was my goal here. First of all, I wanted to find out if an alloy gravel wheel set doesn't cost a lot, really, under $1,000, well under, is this light, under 1,400 grams by my scale. Can it possibly hold up to, well, someone my size? I'm 6'2", 180, in the shower. So I'm not a really big guy, but not a small person either. And where I ride, it's kind of rough and technical, kind of messy, unmaintained dirt roads and whatnot, and single tracks here and there. And so I thought, I wonder if these will hold up for me. And that was going to be one of the things I wanted to find out. Now, let me say this too. I'm not a wheel bender. I'm not a parts breaker. I'm a smooth rider. I might push things here and there. Not extreme. I'm not, a trail crusher on my gravel bike, but I'm not exactly going slow either. So, but I don't have a reputation for breaking things. So just keep that in mind. If you do, well, then maybe this light of an alloy wheel still might not be for you, even though for me, it's been fine. The second thing I wanted to find out was, how do these compare to a similar weight, similar depth, carbon gravel wheel? Like, well, I have some Eastons. I can't remember what they are. I'll put them up on the screen. And I had some Easton wheels that I was using before these. And the second thing I wanted to find out was, how do these compare to a comparable weight, comparable dimensions, as close as I have in the house at least, carbon gravel bike wheel? Because I have found a lot of carbon gravel bike wheels ride pretty firmly, sometimes even harshly. And there's a place for a really tough, really stiff carbon wheel. I'm not really sure if that place is for most people on their gravel bike, but I wanted to see how these compare. In other words, are they a little smoother? Alloy wheels can be a bit more forgiving. Or really, when I ride it, does it not spin up as nicely as the gravel wheels? They have a lot of snap to them, the ones I was riding. And so that was the other thing I wanted to find out. So basically, will they hold up? And how do they compare to a comparable carbon wheel that, well, almost certainly is going to cost more money? So begin with, how have they held up? Well, just fine. Been riding them now, like I said, for several months, lots of miles. Been riding them the way I ride all my gravel bike wheels, which is I push them occasionally, but I don't abuse them. They've been just fine. They are just as true as the day I got them. No hops, no jumps, no wobble, no nothing. Haven't had to touch a spoke as far as tensioning them or chewing them. Basically what you'd expect, really, these days from a modern wheel. They have been fine. Now I'll show you some footage here. This is from 2 years ago at a ride before Sea Otter. We go up there with Enduro Bearing, and they host this gravel bike ride on the single tracks around Fort Ord and basically around the Laguna Seca kind of hills. And I don't have any footage from this year's ride, which was rough compared to what you're seeing here. It looks pretty smooth, and it is. Where we were riding was a little less smooth that time. And I mentioned that because I was chasing the boys, you know, and I was chasing a guy on a drop bar mountain bike conversion with suspension and 2.2s. And I'll tell you what, the roots, the rocks, the drops, the G forces, man, I felt like I'd been in a car crash after that thing. That was a great ride, 40 some miles. And I thought, well, if I'm going to bend a wheel or get it to be out of true or dent it or something, it's probably going to be on this ride. Well, I just didn't. When I was done with the ride, and to this day, they are just as true and seemingly unfazed as the day I put them on. So far, I got no complaints there. Now, I do have one negative with the wheels. When I started using them, I noticed a odd little noise, kind of a musical creaky noise, and I wasn't sure what it was. I thought maybe sometimes, you know, put a cassette body on, it makes a noise, or I didn't tighten my axle. It was kind of a as I was pedaling under load, mostly under a little bit of torque, and I thought that's really odd. Well, I chased it and I chased it and I chased it. When I found out what it was where the spokes, these flat-bladed black spokes cross, they were just slightly rubbing, and they were making noise when they did that. You know, pretty much any wheel. As you ride it, especially the rear wheel, the tension in the wheel changes throughout the wheel. So the spokes that are at the bottom of the wheel, right, between the hub and the ground, are detensioning slightly, and the spokes from the hub to the top of the wheel are more under tension because you're kind of, you're hanging by those spokes. So the wheel is in this constant cycle of tension, detention, tension, detention as it rolls around to one degree or another. And what was happening, it turned out that the coating on these black bladed spokes was making this little cricket noise. And it didn't seem to affect the integrity of the wheel. It was just kind of annoying. I actually dripped a little bit of wax chain lube in there and the noise went away, but it eventually would come back. Reached out to Hunt. They had been doing some diagnosis on this because they'd had some complaints with some other people that had bought these wheels. The end result is they are redoing these wheels with a completely different spoke that will have a different coating. I'm going to assume it's going to be quieter. Doesn't seem to affect the integrity of the wheel. So if you bought these wheels and you're noticing this, you might want to reach out to Hunt. And they're doing some kind of a program where they'll take care of you because their customer service, it's awfully good. It has always been great for me through the years with Hunt. So other than being unfazed by what I put them through riding them, how's this performance been otherwise? Well, very, very good. They snap forward nicely. I mean, it's a light wheel, 1,400 grams. Geez, that's nothing to sneeze at, is it? And they respond well. They accelerate well. They turn well. Hey, good morning. I haven't noticed any kind of a lag or deflection, you know, under like cornering loads, whether that be on some sharp apex off, you know, some single track or on the road, you know, going back and forth on the road at speed. They've just been really, really solid to ride. But I'm curious to see if I go back to a carbon wheel, can I tell the difference? Because, you know, let's pull over here. There's something that happens after you've used something for a while. And I don't care if it's a tire or a bike or a wheel or whatever. Unless it really sucks and you hate it, or you're noticing something about it that you just can't stand. What at first seemed different to you, well, just becomes the norm, doesn't it? And over time, you can't really remember what anything else felt like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to complete this little ride I'm on today. It's about a 10-mile loop, my local trails, on the Hunt Gravel Race alloy disc. And then I'm going to go back home. I'm going to swap Same tires. These are the Kenda Crushers in a 45. Same tires, same tire pressure, same bike, my Turner Cyclosis. And I'm going to put some carbon wheels on I've got that I used before I had these. It's pretty comparable wheel. It's not exact, but it's pretty close in weight and dimensions. And I'm going to go for the same ride. And I'm curious to see, do I go, ooh, or do I go, meh? I don't know, we're going to find out. Because maybe, honestly, these are just as good in every way except the fact that they're cheaper. Well, makes a compelling case, doesn't it? And if they are different, I'm going to see if I can tell how much difference there is and how much that matters, well, to you or to me. All right, let's finish this little loop, and then I'll go in my garage, I'll spin some wrenches, and I'll be back. Alrighty then, wheel swap completed. And yeah, you know, I've been using the Joe's Sealant, tire sealant for tubeless use. I'm going to show you a quick video here from my phone. This is how clean the inside of the tire is. Now, obviously it's wet with sealant, but look, there's almost no spider webbing. There's not a bunch of latexy mess dried in there. In the rear needed sealant. It was almost dry. That's pretty impressive. I love how clean this stuff runs, and I am a fan. That's why I'm glad they sponsor this channel. So of course, someone's gonna say, nice advertisement. Yeah, whatever. It's a good product, I like it. And if you buy it through my link, I get paid a few shekels. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna put these wheels through their paces. I already have some small impressions, and we'll see. I'll talk at you at the end. Catch you in a minute. Well, alrighty then. That was truly very interesting. I noticed the difference in the wheels between the Hunt Gravel Race Alloys disc and these Easton Carbons before I even hit the dirt, just in the cracks in the road. Okay, there was a little bit less, well, there's a little bit less give somewhere in the whole system. It felt more abrupt. That was interesting. Accelerating them and coming around like a sharp corner on the pavement on the road to get here, they also felt just a slightly bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's say direct, right? That's a word. I do think these wheels are simply giving less in any direction that a wheel can give. Now, it's nuanced. In fact, I would say if I hadn't done these back to back, I'm not really sure if I would have even noticed. I might have thought, well, I feel like I'm noticing the bumps more today, but after middle of the ride, I think I wouldn't even have noticed. Now, when I hit the dirt, it was even more apparent on the little baby head rocks embedded in the road and the little chattery stuff where the washboard is. These wheels absolutely were imparting more shock up through the whole bike. I noticed the handlebar, you know, just chattering more. Felt like, I would say, if you added like 3 or 4 more PSI to a tire than what you had it at, or 5 or so, it was pretty noticeable. And on the some of these fast corners with the embedded rocks, it's kind of loose, you know, and you're pitching the bike over a little bit, it would actually bounce offline, where the Hunts wouldn't. They would stay tracking. And in fact, when I first rolled out this morning, I remember thinking to myself, well, this bike, it's been a while since I've been on my gravel bike. I've been so road focused. I thought, you know, this bike really rides really nicely. Well, it doesn't ride as nicely with these Easton Carbons. So what do we make of this? Well, first of all, what I wanted to do was see if the Hunt wheels would stand up to my riding, and it seems like they have. I haven't been able to bend them or anything. They're still nice and true and all of that, and the bearings are smooth, and I had no problems other than the squeaky spokes, which is something Hunt's going to take care of in revisions of these wheels. And if you have that, they'll take care of you. You know, just get in touch with them. And so part one of this was, well, am I going to hurt them? And it seems like, well, I didn't. Part 2 was, can I tell the difference between I would consider a average carbon wheel. I mean, there's all kinds of carbon wheels, aren't they? But let's just say these represent the market fairly well. Is there a difference in ride quality and performance between these and those alloy wheels from Hunt, those gravel races, who are under $1,000 and lighter than these carbon wheels? Is there a performance difference? Yes, there is. These are slightly more responsive. I think when you're pushing harder or quartering harder, these are just driving you forward, keeping you on line a little bit better until it gets bumpy. And then I think I would go faster, honestly, and more comfort on the Hunts. And as far as just pure acceleration on a long climb or something like that, well, the Hunts are lighter, aren't they? And the difference between these wheels and acceleration is not so dramatic that one's a dog and one's a cheetah. No, there was just a slight difference. So if you're going to ask this old guy, did you find out what you wanted to find out with the Hunt wheels? I did, on both accounts. Now, in the box, I'll mention, in my garage, I have a new set of carbon gravel wheels from Hunt. And I'll be showing those to you fairly soon. I'm not ready to get them out of the box yet. But I'll be taking these Eastons off, putting those on, the Cyclosis, and then I'll be running them. But those are kind of actually set aside for a whole new project bike build that I haven't talked about yet. That's coming up. Until then, well, you guys have a great week and or weekend. And as always, go ride your bikes.